have their own, let's call it a separate section. They're highlighted, if you will. Sometimes they're at the top of your credit bureau. As soon as after your name and your information, they'll have collections on there as well. Sometimes they're at the bottom of your credit report. But make sure that you take a look at those things. The collections are on there. If you've never had a collection, if you don't have one, then that's great. That's great. It'll say no collections on there. But let's say you do have a collection. Here's what's going to be on that section. It'll tell who the original creditor was. So let's say it's an apartment complex or it's someplace that grants personal loans or whatever. It'll say who that person is. Then it'll also say who is collecting on you. So it may be ABC Collection Agency or XYZ Collection Agency. It'll tell who they are. It'll also give the amount that they claim that you owe them. Then it'll also give you the date that they started collecting on you. That date is very important. It's very important of when they started collecting on you because they only have so long to be able to um, collect on you and get that money from you. So that date is very important. Make sure that you verify that date if you're looking into, maybe challenging it by disputing it or something of that nature. Or even if you're planning on paying it or what have you, that date is very important to you. So make sure that you take a look at that. And that's in the collections portion as well. So now, what else is on your credit report? And so there's also a section that would be called public records. There's a public records section. Now, in this section, it's pretty much like the collections portion, but it's a public record, meaning it could be something from the government or something of that nature. So tax liens. Tax liens are in the public records portion of your credit report. Judgments. If you had to be sued by someone and they won a judgment against you, that is going to be in the public record portion of your credit report. And then also, if you file, say, like a bankruptcy, that's going to be in that public records portion as well. And even in a bankruptcy, it's not as detailed as I would like to say, bankruptcy, a 7, 11, or a 13. That's not necessarily there, but it will say, that you filed a bankruptcy. Those things are in your public records on your credit report as well. So when it comes to tax liens, let me jump back to that right quick. Tax liens, if it's paid, fine. It'll say, the date that they, put it on your credit report. It'll say, where it came from, what county or what have you. If it's a state tax lien, if it's federal, it'll give an address and things of that nature that, identify where that came from as well. So you can contact them if need be, or if somebody else needs to contact them. It'll show that as well. Now, in my experience, I haven't found anyone that's been able to get state tax liens removed, earlier than they should be, and it seems backwards to me. But federal tax liens, and this is something you need to note. If you owe the IRS and they put it on your credit report, and you owe them $500, $200, or $10,000, and you paid it off, there is an opportunity. There's an opportunity for you to have that removed from your credit report sooner than it should come off. So there's an opportunity there. So if you have a federal tax lien on your credit report, or you're not sure if it's federal or if it's state, contact me. Contact me, send me an email, 800 creditscoreman at gmail.com. Send me an email there. Again, 800 creditscoreman at gmail.com. Send me an email and I will forward you the information, the form number that you need to attempt to get it off of your credit report if you have a federal tax lien on your credit report. So those are some of the things that I want to tell you that are on your credit bureau. And so what else do we have to do today? It's already 19, 20 minutes into the show. It's only a 30-minute show. So we have to do the question of the day. And so the question of the day comes from Mark. Mark is out of Illinois. And Mark asks, how long does a bankruptcy stay on your credit report? And simple answer for you, Mark, is 10 years. If you file bankruptcy and you file bankruptcy in 2016, it is going to stay on your credit report until 2026, an entire decade. Now, that's a long time. It's a very long time. But listen, bankruptcy is not the death knell or the death sentence that it once was. You can start reestablishing credit after filing a bankruptcy, and of course, after it's been discharged, 6 to 9 months after you have filed that bankruptcy. So there are a bunch of mistakes that people make when they file bankruptcy, and one of those mistakes is that they don't seek to establish credit again. They kind of stay away from it, shy away from it. They wait 5, 6, 7 years, and then they start to, try to reestablish credit. But basically, they've been wasting time. I mean, I just told you, you can start to establish credit again in 6 to 9 months. So they've been wasting time. Time is on your side. Your payment history is the biggest portion of your credit score. So the earlier you can start to reestablish credit, the better. And it will definitely boost your score if you're able to do that. So, again, 10 years is how long that it stays on there. Another thing that mistake that people make when they file bankruptcy is that they don't include everything that they can or should when they file for bankruptcy. Oftentimes, emotionally, we hold on to some things. You think, man, this Chase people from the credit card people have been really good to me. When I was short on a payment, I didn't have a problem with them. They were always nice to me, or they extended my credit limit or what have you. So I want to make sure that I pay them back or something like that. And they don't go ahead and include that in bankruptcy. And later on, they may regret it because they actually need that money to survive and move on with their life. So make sure that you include all the things that you should. Contact and consult with your bankruptcy attorney on those things. One thing that people often hold on to is their vehicle. I mean, it's a possibility that you can be approved for another vehicle, and maybe you need to include this one in the bankruptcy and let that vehicle go. I mean, it is what it is when it comes down to that. So make sure that you think these things through before you file bankruptcy, and also think through the fact that it's going to be on your credit report for 10 years. And since I'm right there in this portion right here, I had another question as well that was, how long do items stay on your credit report? And they stay on your credit report for 7 to 10 years, depending on the item. If you have a regular account, I mentioned Chase just a second ago. If you have a regular Chase account and say you even close it, it'll stay on your credit report for 10 years. So things do not necessarily fall off your credit report just because you paid them off. A lot of people think if you pay something off, it's going to come off your credit report. We've delved into that before about collections, but even other accounts. Once you pay them off, they don't come off of your credit report at all. So they'll stay on your credit report for 7 years. Again, the bankruptcy is going to stay on your credit report for 10 years. The tax liens I just mentioned, whether it's federal or state, it's going to stay on your credit report for 7 years. Good info, like I just said, 7 years. If you have a closed account, it's going to stay on your credit report for 7 years, and it'll just show on your credit report. So, hey, thanks a lot, Mark. I appreciate you. Welcome to the 800 Credit Score Man Show. You are a part of this family. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate you contacting me. Again, if you have your questions, please contact me, 800creditscoreman@gmail.com. And while I'm here right now, I want to say also go to my website, www.creditscoreman.com. That's www.creditscoreman.com. Go to my website, take a look around, see the things that I offer there, information, read my blog, all those kinds of things you can do there. And then also you can always contact me on Twitter, and that's at creditscore_man on Twitter. Follow me there. I will definitely follow you back on Twitter. You get some of the things that I tweet out during the week as well. Not just about the show, but other things that may help you increase your credit score, because that's the whole goal of the show, is to help each and every one of you increase your credit scores. I'm also on Instagram, and that's at 800 Credit Score Man on Instagram. Of course, Facebook, you can get to my fan page, which is 800 Credit Score Man on Facebook as well. So, all right, guys, let's get back into the show. So I said I wanted to save accounts for pretty much last in the show. We've got like 5 minutes left. I want to save that. Oh, before I do accounts, I do want to answer another question. This is an older question, and it was about child support. So previously, when I was over at Stepping Stone, a person named James from the state of Indiana um, asked a question about is child support on my credit report? And my answer to that is yes and no. So child support is not on your credit report if you're paying your child support in a timely manner. The only time I've seen child support on someone's credit report is if they owed significant amount of money. Now, significant is different things for different people. So if your child support happens to only be, $100 a month, and I say only, if it's only $100 a month and you owe $3,000, that's going to be on your credit report. If your child support is $1,500 a month and you're behind a couple of months and you owe $3,000, it's not necessarily going to be on your credit report. But then if you have not paid child support for a significant number of years, the state finally catches up with you, then it's going to be on your credit report. 16,000, 30,000, whatever that amount is, it'll be on your credit report. So I just wanted to answer that. So James, that was an old question. I don't know if you're listening, but thanks a lot for chiming in on the 800 Credit Score Man Show. Come back every week, 1:30 Central Standard Time, and listen to the 800 Credit Score Man Show. So let's get into the accounts and talk about what's on the accounts and all of the things I'm telling you so you can have the knowledge and know what to look for and know what lenders are looking for when you go to apply for things. So on your account, it'll say the name of the account, whatever it is, whoever you got something for, XYZ, place. That's credit cards, auto loans, student loans, mortgages, personal loans. All those are examples of different types of accounts that you have or the names of them. It'll have the date that the account opened. So whatever date that is, if it's October the 29th, it'll have October 29th, 2016. That's the date that you open. If the account is open or closed, because if you have an older account, it may not be open anymore. It may be closed. So that's going to be on there. And then oftentimes in the remarks section, it'll say if the account was closed by the consumer, which is you, or it'll say that the account was closed by the grantor. Saying that it's closed by the grantor may be an issue for you because that's not what you want. The only reason people are, a business is closing your account is because they're having an issue with you or issue with the account. Doesn't necessarily mean that it'll show up that you're 30 days late or 60 days late, but they had an issue with you. So make sure you take a look at those things. And then it'll also have your balance. It'll have your current balance on there on your credit report. Now don't freak out if your balance doesn't match what you have because they don't report automatically. So if you make a payment today and then you go and look at your credit report and you try to look at the balance and it doesn't match, don't freak out unless it's widely different. If it's $1,000 off and you only paid $200, then make sure you contact someone and make sure that your balance is correct on there. It'll also have the last date that they reported. So sometimes the creditor or the credit bureau misses something. They may miss a payment. You may be looking at your credit report and it says last reported was July of 2016, and then now it's almost November 2016. So then, of course, your balance may be off. So it's going to have the date last reported as well. And then it also has what your limit is. If it's a credit card, it'll say what your limit is. So if you have $1,000 limit, it'll say what that is, and then you can also see what your balance is. Previously, I told you guys to have the best bang for your buck. You want to be at 30% of whatever your limit is. If it's an installment loan, it'll have your term. So that's 24 months, or if it's 60 months or whatever, it'll have that on there. It'll have your payment amount if it's an installment loan. So if you have a car and your car costs you $350 a month, or your car costs you $550 a month, it'll say what your payment is. That's important information for lenders as well. It'll say about your responsibility. Who is responsible for this account? Is it an individual? Is it a joint account, meaning you and someone else are both responsible? It'll also say if you are if you had the ability to be on the account as well, but you're not responsible for it. So I talked about that a little bit before as well. It'll give a high balance. Now, high balance is, say you have $1,000 credit limit on a particular account, but the highest that you've ever utilized. And oftentimes, it shows up when it's more. So if you have $1,000 limit, but you have charged $1,200 worth of things, and they allow it to go through. It'll tell you what the high balance is,